The old garage sat quietly at the edge of town, weathered by decades of rain, wind, and neglect, looking like nothing more than a forgotten structure that had somehow survived the passage of time. Its faded wooden walls leaned slightly to one side, its rusted metal roof rattled whenever strong winds passed through, and weeds had grown so tall around it that most people barely noticed it anymore. To almost everyone who passed by, it was worthless. To Sarah Mitchell, it was just another reminder of a chapter of her life she desperately wanted to leave behind. Sarah had divorced her husband, Daniel Brooks, 3 years earlier after a marriage filled with arguments, misunderstandings, and growing resentment. What had once been a relationship built on love had slowly turned into endless disagreements over money, careers, and dreams that never seemed to align. The divorce had been difficult. Not because they fought over expensive homes or luxury cars. They had neither. Both had spent most of their marriage struggling financially, trying to keep their small business alive while raising their daughter. When the divorce settlement was finalized, most of their possessions were divided quickly. Daniel kept a few personal items. Sarah took the family home. One overlooked property remained in question. An old garage. The garage had belonged to Daniel's grandfather decades earlier. Nobody had used it in years. The structure sat on a neglected piece of land located near the outskirts of town. At least, that was what everyone believed. The paperwork surrounding the property was confusing, old, and incomplete. Neither Daniel nor Sarah considered it valuable enough to spend time investigating. Months after the divorce, Daniel moved away for work. Sarah remained behind. The garage continued to sit abandoned. One day, Sarah received a property tax notice regarding the garage. The amount wasn't large, but it irritated her. She stared at the paperwork and shook her head. "Why am I still paying taxes on this useless building?" she muttered. The following week, she contacted a local buyer known for purchasing old structures and unused lots. The man inspected the garage. He walked around it twice. He looked at the cracked foundation. He examined the collapsing roof. Finally, he shrugged. "I'll give you $3,000. Sarah almost laughed. $3,000 for a building she considered worthless seemed like a gift. Without hesitation, she agreed. Within days, the paperwork was completed. The garage was gone from her life. Or so she thought. For several months, nothing happened. Life continued as normal. Sarah focused on work. Daniel focused on rebuilding his future in another city. Neither gave the old garage another thought. Then everything changed. A major technology company announced plans to build a massive innovation campus outside town. The project promised thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in economic activity. Almost overnight, land values exploded. Developers rushed into the area. Investors purchased every available property they could find. Farmers received offers they never imagined possible. Old warehouses suddenly became valuable. Vacant lots became gold mines. And hidden beneath all the excitement was one shocking discovery. Surveyors conducting research uncovered records showing that the land beneath the old garage was not a tiny neglected parcel as everyone had assumed. It was part of a much larger tract connected to several neighboring properties. Due to a century-old legal error, ownership records had never been updated correctly. When attorneys completed their investigation, the truth stunned everyone. The land associated with the garage covered nearly 200 acres. Its location placed it directly at the center of the proposed development zone. Estimated value: more than $90 million. The news spread through town like wildfire. People could hardly believe it. Local newspapers covered the story. Television stations interviewed experts. Everyone asked the same question. How could anyone accidentally sell $90 million for $3,000? Sarah learned the truth one afternoon while drinking coffee at work. A coworker rushed into the office holding a newspaper. "Sarah," he said breathlessly, "you need to see this." She looked down. Her face immediately turned pale. The headline nearly made her drop the cup. The article detailed the ownership history. The garage, the land, the recent sale, the incredible valuation. Sarah felt her heart pounding. "No," she whispered, "this can't be real." But it was. Very real. She spent the rest of the day making phone calls. Lawyers, county offices, property experts, anyone who might tell her there had been a mistake. Unfortunately, every answer pointed in the same direction. The sale had been legal. The paperwork had been valid. The new owner now controlled land potentially worth $90 million. That evening, Sarah sat alone in her living room staring into space. $3,000. The number echoed endlessly in her mind. $3,000. For $90 million. She barely slept. Over the following weeks, frustration turned into regret. Regret turned into anger. Anger turned into obsession. She replayed every decision repeatedly. Why hadn't she researched the property? Why hadn't she hired an attorney? Why hadn't she waited? The questions had no useful answers. Meanwhile, Daniel eventually heard the story from an old friend. His reaction was very different. He was shocked, certainly. Anyone would be. But instead of becoming consumed by the news, he simply accepted reality. The property had never meant much to him. Money couldn't change the past. When reporters eventually contacted him, he offered a surprisingly calm response. "I hope whoever owns it now does something good with it," he said. Many people found his reaction remarkable. Most assumed he would be furious. Instead, he seemed at peace. Sarah, however, struggled. Every news update reopened old wounds. Every article felt like another reminder of what she had lost. One afternoon, she finally met with an experienced attorney. After reviewing every document, the lawyer delivered difficult news. The chances of reversing this sale are extremely small. Sarah lowered her head. There must be something. The lawyer sighed. Sometimes opportunities are missed. It happens. Those words stayed with her. Sometimes opportunities are missed. Simple, painful, true. Months passed. Development plans accelerated. Investors continued negotiating deals. The value estimates climbed even higher. People who had purchased surrounding properties became wealthy. The man who bought the garage suddenly found himself at the center of one of the most profitable real estate stories in state history. Ironically, even he admitted he had not known the land's true value when he purchased it. He had simply taken a chance. A small risk. A routine investment. Nothing more. Yet that ordinary decision transformed his life forever. As time went on, Sarah gradually began accepting reality. Holding on to bitterness wasn't changing anything. The money was gone. The opportunity had passed. The future still remained. One evening, she visited her daughter. While talking, she confessed her lingering regret. "I can't stop thinking about what happened." Her daughter listened quietly. Then she smiled. "Mom, if you had known, you wouldn't have sold it." "Exactly. And if you had known every winning lottery number, you'd be rich too." Sarah laughed despite herself. Her daughter continued. "You made the best decision you could with the information you had." The words struck her deeply. For years, she had judged her past self using information she never possessed at the time. Perhaps that wasn't fair. Perhaps nobody could have predicted what happened. Slowly, Sarah began moving forward. She stopped reading articles about the development. She stopped tracking property values. She stopped imagining alternate versions of her life. Instead, she focused on creating a better future with the opportunities still available to her. Years later, the technology campus became one of the largest economic projects in the region. Thousands of people found jobs there. Entire neighborhoods emerged around the development. The once forgotten area transformed into a thriving center of innovation. And where the old garage had once stood, modern buildings rose into the sky. Visitors walking through the district had no idea that beneath their feet lay one of the most remarkable real estate stories ever told. A story about chance. A story about timing. A story about decisions made without knowing what the future holds. For Daniel, the experience reinforced a lesson about acceptance. For Sarah, it became a lesson about letting go. And for everyone who heard the story, it served as a powerful reminder that value is not always visible at first glance. Sometimes the most ordinary-looking places hide extraordinary possibilities. Sometimes opportunities sit quietly in plain sight for years before anyone recognizes them. And sometimes, a forgotten garage that appears worthless turns out to be sitting on land worth $90 million. Life is unpredictable that way. No one can know every opportunity. No one can see every hidden possibility. All anyone can do is make the best decisions possible with the knowledge available at the time. Because in the end, the future often holds surprises that nobody, not even the smartest experts, could ever imagine.